Good afternoon, and welcome to the Gator Wesley Bio. Today at the show we have Dan Wendell. Thank you for coming.
You bet.
Oh, no problem. So let's go ahead and get started by having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, my name is Dan Wunderlich. I am 28 years old. I'll be 29 on November 15th, coming up this fall. I am the Associate Pastor Director at the Gator Wesley Foundation. I enjoy music and movies and books and art and sports.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Orlando, Florida, southeast Orlando, Florida, sort of a little bit out by the airport. It's about 15 minutes away from my house. Grew up in Conway United Methodist Church, and never really went to a whole lot of schools in my district because I was always in special programs and things. But went to Winter Park High School, graduated in 2002, and then came to the University of Florida.
And can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with your mother and father?
My parents are great. I love them very much. They actually have a condo here in Gainesville that they come up for football games and for baseball games and for gymnastics and all that kind of stuff. And when they retire, they want to move up here. So I actually have the blessing of seeing them more often than most people get to see their parents unless they live in the same town. My dad is an accountant for the Orange County government down in Orlando, and my mom works for the Orange County Convention Center, but she's done a billion things. She actually has more degrees than my dad, but when they had me, she decided to go ahead and be a stay-at-home mom to raise me and then my brother, who came a year and a half later. And then she was sort of I call it a professional volunteer while I was in school. She would help out with everything, all the things that I was involved in, and then took a few jobs after me and my brother left the house, and has landed with the Orange County Convention Center, where she helps staff events and things, which is really great because she has a wide range of interests. So one week she'll be working a Star Wars convention, and then the next she'll be working like building construction vehicles, and she's interested in all of those things. So she gets to meet cool people from all across really the world who come to Orlando for conferences and things. And then my dad, he and I have always bonded over sports. He was a Little League coach for me. He taught me how to cheer for the Gators. We would play catch in the backyard all the time. I was a pitcher, so I really appreciate his willingness to squat down with a glove and no catcher's gear and be willing to let me throw at him as hard as I could. And so whenever we're together, we just talk about Gator football and Magic basketball. And he's an Orioles fan and I'm a Rays fan, and they're in the same division, but not always rivals. So it's kind of nice to complain about the Yankees and the Red Sox since both of our teams hate them.
So can you talk a little bit about your childhood?
Sure. I was involved with school a lot. I am blessed to be good at school. That was one thing that God has given me the ability to do well, and unfortunately I'm I think I'm done with school. I may get a doctorate later, but it's not really on my plans right now. So I did that. I did Little League baseball up until high school, and I started doing music in middle school and took drum lessons all throughout middle school and high school. And when I got to high school, I stopped playing baseball and focused on music. I made the all-state band a couple times on percussion, and even was involved in the drum line and the percussion studio here at UF for a couple of years. So really, baseball and church was also obviously a huge thing. We were pretty much at church anytime the doors were open. So school and baseball and music and church were kind of the four things that I focused on. And I like to draw a lot growing up, and would draw specifically comic book stuff. I was a big Superman fan. So. And
you mentioned you had a brother, correct?
Yep.
Could you describe your relationship with your brother?
Sure. My brother David is a year and a half younger than me, but he's smarter than me, better looking than me, and makes more money than I do. But that's not hard. I'm a pastor, He works for Wells Fargo on the technical side of things. Like he works with their banking software and home banking software and all that kind of stuff. He also writes an SEC sports blog, which is why I say he's cooler than me, because he gets paid to write about Gator football. I just pay to watch it. And he has a good time with that. His wife, Danielle, is also an alumnus of the Gator Wesley Foundation, and she is a professional flute player. And they have 2 dogs that are both wild and crazy. So, but my relationship with my brother has definitely improved since we have become somewhat adults. We were very competitive growing up because we did the same stuff. We were only a year and a half apart in age and a year apart in school. So we always were in the same bands and in the same Little League teams, and we did the same things for fun. So we would be somewhat competitive growing up, but especially since we got to college and we played in praise bands together here at the University of Florida, and then since he's moved away, he's definitely a good friend of mine.
And can you describe a little bit about your early education? What kind of education did you receive?
I went through a couple different elementary schools. mainly because I got into the gifted program and then into a program called AIM, and then continued that in middle school. And then in high school, I did the International Baccalaureate program, which is it was developed as a program for children of diplomats around the world so that they would have a standardized education. And it's a really rigorous and intense program, and actually quite a few Gator Wesley people have done that. And so I did that in high school, and then I majored in advertising here at the University of Florida, and then went on to seminary.
And you did mention that you went to the University of Florida for your undergraduate degree, correct?
Yep.
And what degree did you choose?
I chose advertising, and actually it's slightly funny and slightly embarrassing. I chose my major because of the movie What Women Want, which is when Mel Gibson suddenly can hear all of the thoughts of women. But he was an advertising guy, and so the kind of catch of the movie is that he could hear what women were thinking, and therefore, because he knew what they wanted and what they were thinking, he was able to do this really compelling commercial for women's Nike running shoes. And I saw that, and that just really hit home for me. It was a chance to be creative and to get to know people and to connect with people. And that's something that I wanted to do. And so I majored in advertising here at the University of Florida, and learned how to communicate, learned how to be creative, learned how to do research and understand other people. And really, that's stuff I've ended up using in my ministry. So it's nice to know that has been helpful, even if it's not what I'm doing for my profession.
And as you just mentioned, you also went to seminary, correct?
Yep.
Where did you go to seminary?
I went to Asbury Theological Seminary. The main campus is in Wilmore, Kentucky, but I went to their commuter campus in Orlando because that allowed me to stay connected to Gator Wesley. And I'm extremely thankful because our previous director, David Fuqua, allowed me to leave one day a week to go to classes and then come back and get all my assignments and things done while also working here at the Wesley Foundation. And so it was partially out of convenience, but it was also a seminary that other pastors in my family had attended. It was a place that I felt comfortable with, and it was really a really meaningful and shaping experience. Seminary is meaningful and shaping for everybody, but Asbury was a place that felt like home for me. They really focused on training you up with your pastoral skills and connecting with people, which was something that I like to do, and I loved the people there. I loved all my professors, and learned a lot, and am hopefully making them proud.
And a lot of viewers know that you do have your wife, Kara. Can you dwell on a little bit about that, how you met her and your relationship with her as well?
Sure. Well, Kara's father, my father-in-law, the Reverend Roy Lowe, is an alumnus of the Gator Wesley Foundation as well. Of course, back then it was University United Methodist Church and Student Center and the Wesley Foundation. And so he was here and around when Maranatha got started. And so anytime he has the opportunity to bring the Maranatha Choir to his church down in Bartow, he takes advantage of it. And so when I was a freshman in college, we went on Maranatha tour, and we stopped in Bartow, Florida. And it was the last day of tour, and we used to do a fun day the day after the last day of tour. And so he hosted us out at a lake house. And his daughter, Kara, who was a junior in high school at the time, was around. And I thought she was pretty cute, but she was still in high school and I was in college. So we talked a little bit, but I kind of let that go. And I didn't think I'd ever see her again. And really the only reason I remember that is because we ended up reconnecting. She came to the University of Florida and at first didn't want to come to Gator Wesley because that was what her parents had done and she wanted to sort of blaze her own trail. But I was playing drums at FCA, and she saw me playing drums there and I guess recognized me. And she ended up making it here to Gator Wesley and joining Maranatha. And it was through Gator Wesley that we got to know each other. We dated for about 6 years and have now been married for 1.5 years.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your experience here at Gator Wesley as being a campus minister or an associate campus minister.
Sure. Well, I've actually been connected to this place for 10 years because in 2002 I graduated high school and came here, and I was a student at the Wesley Foundation for 4 years. I also was on upper room staff, so I lived in the old buildings, the ones that we ended up tearing down, and we tore them down while I was a student. So freshman year I lived in the dorm, sophomore year I lived at the old church, and then junior year we tore the church down. And by around that time, it was a big time of transition for Gator Wesley, and so I was doing a lot to keep the student ministries going and growing and doing great things with the help and support of the people that were here. And so David ended up getting hired and started for January of my senior year, and so he was there for my last half a year as an undergrad. And then I left, and I stayed in contact with him because Kara was here, and she was on staff while I was gone. And I stayed connected with David. And then at the end of that year away, he invited me to come back as a campus ministry intern. And then I went from campus ministry intern to assistant campus minister. And now that I am in the ordination process and have been commissioned, and I'm somewhat the Reverend Dan Wunderlich in the Methodist Church, once you're commissioned or ordained, you become associate rather than assistant. So that's sort of my path to how I got here. But it really is, I think, the best job in ministry, because I get to hang out with college students. I get to be with a group of people during a really critical time in their life. Students are leaving home. They're living away from home for the first time. It's the first time that they're having to make decisions on their own about who their friends are and what they're going to do and how they're going to spend their money, how they're going to spend their free time, whether or not they're going to be involved in the church. Young adults set their patterns in college. Like if you go to the gym and you exercise and things in college, you're much more likely to do that after college. If you manage your money wisely, if you choose to eat healthy, like we set these patterns in college. And so it's just really on my heart that if the church has absolutely no influence during this time when people are setting their patterns, why would we ever expect them to want to be involved in the church later? Barring some form of tragedy or some really rough re-entry into the Christian community. And so instead, this is an opportunity for us to be proactive on the front end and show people just what it means to be the community of Christ and the kind of transformation that can happen in a relationship with Christ, and how that kind of transformational relationship and transformational community of campus ministry can really help you through this time of making your decisions.
Looking forward, now that we're having a new pastor, Narcy,
Mm-hmm.
and her coming in, what goals do you see Gator Wesley going in the future?
Well, Gator Wesley has been on a trajectory of growth and of transformation for the entire time that I've been here, and so I think that that's going to continue, and it'll certainly be different. Narcy and David are two very different people, but they have the same core vision for here, and that's to see the lives of college students transform, to see the students that come here ending up more like Christ, and to see our influence on campus grow, not so that we're more popular or more famous, but so that more students can enter into the type of transformational relationship with Jesus that we have. Like, I really truly believe that college is easier if you have a relationship with Jesus. And that's like a really fringe benefit, because obviously the point of a relationship with Jesus is to have a relationship with Jesus. But being an advertising major, I also know you have to find out what college students want. You have to catch their attention somehow. And I think, as David continually pointed out, the number one problem in college is loneliness, and the number two problem in college is anxiety and depression. And if nothing else, campus ministry and a relationship with Christ provides a community that can help you overcome loneliness, and it can give you a sense of peace and a purpose that can help combat the anxiety and the depression. And so really, no matter how much we change or no matter how much we keep the same, I think our vision and our goal is going to be the same. And I love the energy that Narcy brings. I love her personality, and I think things are going to be a lot of fun.
And I do believe that you will have our best interest forward.
Oh, yeah. I hope so.
And we're getting to the end of our show today, and I want to thank you for coming on the show again.
Sure, absolutely.
And with the last few moments, is there anything that you would like people to know about you, or they already know that they should already know?
I guess there's something that a few, I would say probably a good number of people know, although even some people in the band don't know this, which is interesting to me. I don't actually play guitar. I am originally a drummer. Like I mentioned, I did percussion all growing up and drum set and all that kind of stuff. And when I was leaving high school to come to college, I had a friend who was moving across the country for college, and her parents told her, whatever you don't fit in the car, we're throwing away. And I was over at her house while she was packing up, and she had this guitar, and she said, my parents are just going to throw this away. I don't have room for it. Do you want it? And I bought my guitar from her for $50. And when I was an undergrad, some people paid as a gift to put a pickup in it so that I could plug it into the sound system. But I was a drummer, and I wanted to play as soon as possible, so I didn't want to take the time to learn how to play guitar. So I found an open tuning that the Goo Goo Dolls use now. The Goo Goo Dolls know how to play real guitar, and they play it extremely well. But one of their songs, they have this tuning that's really, really, really easy to get started. And so I tuned my guitar to that, and that's what I've used for the last, 8-10 years. So if you hand me like Alex Miller's guitar or Roy's guitar or Jimmy's guitar, I can't play anything anything. But I could hand you my guitar and teach you how to play it in about 2 minutes. And I'm just really, really blessed that we have a talented band behind me that can hide the fact that I don't play real guitar. And instead it allows me to focus on leading worship and being present and providing the kind of the energy that we need to drive the band. So there's your little nugget of secret wisdom. If you've made it all the way to the end of this episode, you now know that I cannot actually play guitar.
We want to thank you again.
Thank you, JC, for having me.
No problem. Thank you. And this has been the Gator Wesley Bios, produced by James Jordan and produced on location at the Gator Wesley Foundation, which is a campus ministry of the United Methodist Church that services the University of Florida and Santa Fe College. Tune in next time when we have more stories, more people, and more Gator Wesley Bios. Thank you and good day.